Hello, my friends. It's the end of year 5. Our players should now be 21 and a half. We had some players that were kind of playing, but not really. And Juve, I've noticed on the main home screen of Football Manager, have a new manager, so let's go take a look. As always, it's June 30th, 2028. And you see this part right here? Juve have hired Erik ten Hag? So of course we have to start with Gustav, who is apparently still at Juve. Okay? He was playing in the second team, the next gen team, but I'm seeing automatically up here, my friends, he has one appearance from 2027 to 2029 for the senior team. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Let's look at the history screen here. Oh, golly. One substitute appearance last year on a 6.5 for Juve in Serie A, and then a bunch of next-gen appearances, 29 starts, 2 goals, and a player of the match on a 6.94. It's interesting, though, that it shows that he has here, with next-gen, 2 international appearances, but when I click on Juve, like the senior team, it shows 4 international appearances. What's up with that? All right, let's start with next gen. They finished 15th on 44 points. Brescia get promoted with 81. So I think we noticed it with like Gustav and like a bunch of randoms. So I think that's kind of what's making sense there. Okay, so this is interesting. I've gone back to Juve's last season for the senior team, and I can see all of the regular season games, right? Like with the stuff on the side. I can't see like the Europa League phase, at least to begin, but I can see the Supercopa semifinal and so on. And I've noticed, like if I go look at Inter here, Gustav is on the bench for the 3rd game of the season. And it looks like his one substitute appearance comes at the 3rd to last game to the end of the season against Udinese. He comes on as a sub and picks up a knock on a 6.5. Yeah, you can see it here. He comes on for Eric Garcia in the 36th minute and then has to come off himself in the 51st minute. Gutting. But the injury wasn't bad enough to even make the injury list, so who knows? So when we look at the squad screen, you can see Gustav is in the team. Now, is this just for preseason, or is it he's a part of the squad, but he's a 21-year-old guy, and we bring him in if we absolutely have to. He's still in that breakthrough prospect contract, and you'll note he is listed as happy, so he's not upset about this. It looks like Juve are playing a 3 at the back system with wingbacks and a DM, and he's one of the rotation. That's actually, I think, a good thing because it gives him 3 opportunities to be subbed in for players rather than just 2. His reputation is improved to a 2.5, which is listed as good. He has no short-term plans or long-term plans and is content at the club. So he's taking maybe the long view that I'm going to sit here and develop and learn how to play defense in Juve and get paid really well. But he's got 3 years left on his deal. There's not a whole lot to show you. Somewhat disappointingly, his attributes have gone down. Free kick taking and long shots, okay, he's not a attacking player. They each went down by 1. But his composure dropped from an 11 to a 10, as did his work rate. So you would think now being part of the senior squad and surrounded by really good players that those things would be increasing. But is it the lack of playing time or the playing time he's only getting in Serie A? Is that impacting him? He does pick up 4 international caps, but it's kind of a mixed bag. In Hungary's 4th Euro qualifiers group stage game against Azerbaijan, he starts and does a 7.2. Lovely, they get the win. He starts against Croatia, they lose narrowly, 1-0, a 79th minute winner as well. And he does a 6.6, which I think is fine for a 21-year-old guy playing against Croatia. But then in the remaining 3 games of 2027, he does not get called up, and Hungary go on to get 2 wins and a draw. Coming into 2028, he also doesn't get called up for the Euro playoffs, semifinal, and final, where they get knocked out by Scotland. Go on, Scotland. Before coming back into the fold in some friendlies against Venezuela, where he starts and gets a 6.8, and Uruguay, where he gets a 6.5. But to be fair, Kirkaz got sent off in the 66th minute, so maybe that has something to do with why the back line looked quite poor after that. Now, Hungary do have a new manager as of November 24th of the previous year, Serdan Blagojevic. Hopefully that's somewhat correct. So he's been in charge for 219 days, so I was kind of wondering if maybe Gustav had fallen out of favor if we go back to 2027. The manager gets hired after the draw to Azerbaijan, and I don't know if that's because that put Hungary in 3rd on 12 points rather than potentially qualifying them or tying Sweden or something like that, because Marco Rossi was the previous manager and he resigned after that. He actually resigned the day of the draw. So they draw and he's like, I'm out. So maybe that makes a little bit more sense here. The new manager, you come in, you're like, I don't want to trust a 21-year-old. It's the Euro playoff semifinal. Let's bring in the strongest squad we can. So he's still like working his way into the setup. We have a slight wage rise. He's gone from 21 to 22 grand, but his value has actually dropped just a smidge. He was on like 18 to 56 million, and now it's 17 and a half to 52 million. So that's probably your potential was there, but you're not playing, but you're not playing. So maybe that window is starting to close just a little bit. I mean, he's 21 and a half, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, hey, you've got to make a move or you've got to play for that value to remain elevated. That's really all I can show you on Gustav. Let's go check out Chris. When we last saw Chris, he was just finishing up a loan at Hanover. He's now still with Borussia Dortmund. He's on 20 grand a week. He's got the under 23 tag because he's 21 and a half years old. Did he play? He did not. He did not get any appearances for the second team in 3 Liga in Germany. That's not good. That's actually quite bad. What happened? Did he get seriously injured? No, he's got a bruised ankle and a bruised thigh in this season. He's out a total of 7 days. He's gotten his 5% yearly wage rise up to 20 grand. It's the original contract, 10.5 to 32 million, which is a pretty healthy drop from 13 to 40 million. So that top end is coming down. No new traits, no development or reduction in his attributes, which I kind of find that a bit interesting if he's not playing, but maybe it's just that the training facilities are that good at Dortmund. Not a whole lot for him to have missed in the under 23s for the United States, only 1 friendly against Spain. He does not get the call up there. The Olympics are coming up, but I wouldn't imagine a guy who's not playing is going to get the call up unless for some reason US Soccer says we want to put this guy in the shop window to help his career out. He is still showing up in the squad, right, for the second team as a sub coming off of the bench. His contract is future prospect. He's making 20 grand a year. It's €1 million a year. That's actually not a bad way to make a living, Chris, right? You getting paid $1 million to train and apparently not play unless the stats just don't show up on the history screen for that, maybe. But you would think they would because it's listed here, right? It's a completely separate squad. But when I go to the second squad schedule from last year, nothing shows up on the right side for any of the games. So that would indicate Chris is not making it into the squad. I really don't think there's much else I could show you on Chris. What is interesting, though, is at the next check-in, he'll have a year left on that contract. So this is kind of a make it or break it. You would imagine for Dortmund is like, we either need to loan this guy out to guarantee him some playing time, or maybe they start considering selling him to someplace else because they're not getting anything. I mean, the problem, I think, is they didn't invest hardly anything into him from Dortmund's level, right? 350 grand is like, yeah, we took a punt on this American kid. Yeah, you could get a return on that investment. Are you going to get 10 million for Chris right now? I'm not so sure. Then again, Juventus dropped to 10.75 on Gustav and just play him in the second team, so maybe. Ooh, moving on. Gregory Bros is no longer in Ireland, my friends. He finally got the move. He got noticed, and he has moved to Torino. As I somewhat predicted last time, there was those clubs that were looking at him. 500 grand, drops it on him. He comes in, gets 2 starts, 3 subs on a 6-7-6. Not as much playing time as honestly I'd like to see after they bring him in. But at least he's now in Serie A. That is a big move, to be fair, to go from the League of Ireland Premier Division to Torino. So we'll have to see how that pans out long term. 500 grand, again, the problem, like the good news is 500 grand means a bigger club came in and just went, boop, fine, we'll take him. But it also means they don't have as much incentive to then play him or then like develop him so that he can be resold. But that's early. He just got here. Let's see when it happened. Well, before we do that, let's look over here where he's got 2 starts, 3 subs, 6-7-6, no goals, no assists. And then internationally, he picks up 2 starts. I think I saw a little Ireland flag up there. Let's go see. And 2 subs with a goal and an assist on a 6-7-5. Okay. Indeed, Greg has picked Ireland. Go on, son. He made his debut against Albania in March. So this is a relatively new thing that has happened. He gets picked up and then moves to Italy and then gets into the Irish national team. Go on then. He's up to I don't know if it's up to, but he's on a 1.5 star okay reputation, has the same agent as before. He moved 16 days after the last episode when we check in on June 30th So all those clubs were looking around in the summer window. He decided not to stick around with Shamrock to see if they might be able to close that gap to win a title, and says, well, I mean, he didn't really decide. I mean, I guess he did. He had to agree to the contract, but the club said, yep, we're going to take that 500 grand. We'll see you later. Good luck with your career. And off he goes to Italy. So he's on a new deal until 2031. So originally, it's a 4-year deal. He's got 3 years left. No release clauses. He does have a 1-year optional extension by the club. Gets a loyalty bonus up to $12.5 a week. Not bad. He's avoided significant injuries. You know, in January, he had a tight hammy for 3 days. That's it for this entire last year that we are just checking in on. So that's good. When you look at Torino's squad, he is listed on the bench. He's number 7 sub. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a random, you know, I like to do goalkeeper to striker, right, in my sub order. So is he actually the 7th sub? Is that what that means? It is a fringe player contract. He's happy. He's worth 3.8 to 11.5 million. It looks like Torino is playing a 4-2-3-1, and there's currently a gap on the left wing. Is that where our man's going to go this coming season? I wonder why that is. Just looking at Torino's transfers out here, I don't see a massive summer transfer where somebody is leaving. You know, if you go back to January of the season, they had Mark Serbec, who's a left winger, right winger. So, but you would then imagine that Greg would have picked up more games between January 20th and June 30th. It doesn't appear that they currently have a regular starter agreed playing time for a pure left winger. There are some squad players in here that could fit the bill, or they could like rotate their attacking third around to kind of make that work. But maybe that means Greg's got a shot to actually make a little bit more than fringe player appearances. Obviously, it's the middle of the window, so maybe they're going out and they're going to go get somebody else. But maybe there's a glimmer of hope for the 21-year-old lad. Last year, Torino was scraping it. They are 1 point away from being relegated, so they will really have to improve. Maybe that's Greg coming in, right? Start the guy to have a shot at staying up. So there is a risk now that he gets relegated out of Serie A. We are seeing some nice development out of Greg. So again, as a reminder, I'll take a screenshot of all the players' attribute screens. I'm going to drop that on my Patreon on the free tier, so you don't have to pay to subscribe to see that. I just don't want to spend 40 minutes going through line by line of the attributes. But he looks pretty good. I mean, again, for a 21-and-a-half-year-old guy, maybe how many starts or appearances should he get for Torino? Considering we just looked at their squad, I'd like to see him get 8 starts in the league, or like combination of league and early cup games, and then maybe another 12 substitute appearances. Maybe that's ambitious. I'm thinking about Marcus when we said that, and that didn't pan out, but you know, like, looks pretty good to me. All right, let's take a look at his international stuff, because at least he's playing there. He, again, makes his debut against Albania in a draw. Nathan Collins gets the goal there, but he does start on a 6.8. Not bad. He doesn't make an appearance for Italy. Did they say, like, you know, international instructions, don't play against us, you know, or something like that, in a loss there? But he gets the winner, his first international goal against Greece in the 49th minute. Let's go take a look. Okay, I can't take a look at the actual goal. That's unfortunate, but he does score, and he gets a 6.8 out of it. So how good of a goal was it, or how bad was the rest of his game that he scored the winner and still ends up with a 6.8? And then it looks like he made the Euro group stage squad. So he comes on as a sub in the warm-up game against Turkey on a 6.7. He does not start or sub on in the draw against Italy. I think that's a pretty good result if you're Irish. Then a draw against France, a 2-2 draw. My goodness, what a game. They score first in the 6th minute, then they give up a goal in the 21st, then they come back to take the lead in the 56th minute, and then Mbappe scores in the 66th minute. But he does come on, it looks like a sub there, and does a 6.7. And then disappointingly, he doesn't make an appearance, or doesn't start and doesn't come on as a sub against Sweden in a 2-1 loss there. And I'm guessing that probably knocks Ireland out of the Euros with just the 2 points. But just making it is, you know, yay. So this is now hopeful for Greg, I think. You know, getting those 4 caps, his first international goal, getting into the Euro squad, and he's now in a team that theoretically needs someone to at least rotate in every so often on the left wing. Will we see more out of Greg next time we check in? I certainly hope so. Since you probably caught CDB's name on that scoreline against Sweden, I thought let's go there next. Still with AC Milan, now worth 121 to 364 million. Oh my gosh. He was on 94 grand a week. He's up to 125 grand. Yikes. It's the same contract, 5%. That can't be the same contract, 5%. Oh, did he get 5% at the end of 2027 and another one just now, maybe? Or something like that? He's gotten two 5% raises, 94 grand, right? Like 5% is like 4.6 grand or something like that. He's somehow up to 125 grand. Maybe he had a clause in there about, a certain number of international starts. But that's a hefty jump. That's like a 30 grand jump. Interesting. And again, let's just pause here. Again, I'll take a screenshot of this and put it on the Patreon, but those are some tasty nugget attributes, I think. I think we have officially a tasty nugget here, my friends. Okay, let's take a look at his history here. Again, it rises. Okay, it was like 26 million. So through various, performance bonuses or whatever, they've now paid 31 million to Inter Miami. He gets 33 starts, 1 sub, 4 goals, 4 assists, a player of the match, a 7-1-4 in Serie A is really darn good. 3 cup starts and a sub on a 6.93. 9 continental starts with 2 goals and 2 assists throwing in there on a 7.07. Plus, the casual 10 international starts with just the 1 goal and 1 assist, which is kind of disappointing when you consider he's probably been lighting up, the Champions League and Serie A with goals. To only get 1 goal and 1 assist internationally is a bit of a meh, if I'm honest. Maybe it's because they have high standards now for him. He's remained relatively injury-free. He won the league with AC Milan by 4 points. Oh, surprising. They get knocked out of the Champions League, the phase after the league phase. Hilarious. By RB Leipzig on a 4-3 aggregate scoreline, despite him playing a 7.4 in the second leg and a 6.3 in the first leg. Quite the tale of 2 games there. Gustav is on the bench when Juve beats AC Milan in the Coppa Italia quarterfinal. It did take him until extra time, to be fair. And he did a 7.6 in the Supercoppa final, which probably in comparison to the other things, you go like, nah, it's the least. But you get a Supercoppa final and you win the league. Not a bad season. Of course, I'm guessing they would much rather have made a deeper run into the Champions League, considering they ended up winning Serie A. But maybe that's because they got knocked out. That gave them that, rest so that they get the 4 extra points over Inter Milan. AC Milan also favored to win the league again this season. CDB not listed as the key player. Rafael Leao is, and Christian Pulisic still there as the captain. And don't worry, Jurgen Klopp still in charge. Looks like AC Milan plays a 4-3-3, kind of Jurgen Kloppish, and CDB is that left, maybe box-to-box midfielder that you would put there in the middle. He's lost his Wonderkid tag, but that's because I think he's aged out of it. He's now a cultured midfielder. He does a lot. He talks with his hands now. That's what that means. As we noted earlier, Sweden does qualify in second, so they don't have to go through the playoffs. And CDB plays a big part in that. So he plays a 7.2 against Lithuania, a 7.0 against Azerbaijan. That's a draw, somewhat disappointingly. A 7.3 and a win over Croatia. A 6.8, so not his fault, maybe, against and a loss to Hungary. And then a 7.0 and another victory over Lithuania. He does not play in May in a friendly against Ukraine, but then again, as they're warming up for the Euros, he does a 7.3 against Belgium. They got smacked by Belgium, to be fair. Plays a 6.7 against France and a draw. Not a bad result if you're Sweden. A 6.4 against Italy, but they somehow win. He comes off in the 73rd minute, so it wasn't like they got the hook out early, A 7.8 and the winning goal against Ireland to knock Greg out. In the second round, he does an 8.1 against Ukraine, 3-1 victory. And next up, they take on Poland, which is in 3 days after I holiday this forward. You know what I find most scary about this? When you look at his attributes, he's 21.5. They are going to get better, I think. How high do you think CDB's value goes? And does AC Milan ever sell him? Leave a comment. Let's move along to Chase, who is still with PSG, showing no playing time whatsoever for the senior team. He has 6 caps for Australia. Let's see what that looks like. So PSG 2, he does 34 starts on a 6.95. He gets 1 international start on a 6.6. He concedes a goal. Now, it does look like he makes a cup start and a cup substitution appearance. But concedes 3 to who? in the French Cup on a 6-4-5. Oh dear, let's go look at that. Okay. So the Coupe de France 9th round looks like Arnaud Tenas goes out with an injury early. Chase comes in and does a 6.9 over here. So that's the substitute appearance against Paris 13 Atletico. Then against Nimes? I'm sorry, French, most languages and I don't get along. He starts probably because of the injury 2 weeks earlier to Tenas, and he does a 6.0. Now, in his defense, okay, they gave up 2 goals in the first 25 minutes. But I was going to say, Milinkovic-Savic gets sent off in the 63rd minute, so they play the entire rest of the game or does it go straight to penalties? It doesn't say extra time. But maybe it just goes straight to penalties, and then they lose on penalties, which would be somewhat Chase's fault. Yeah, and Tenas fractured his wrist for 3 weeks, so that explains why. It's like, 2 weeks, it was an orange, injury. Why did Chase start the next game? Well, that's why. Can we just look at what PSG is paying for their second team players? Chase is on 36.5, and that's not, unlike Gustave, that's not an abnormality for PSG. They've got a guy on 61 grand, 65 grand as a breakthrough prospect. Wow, that is something else. Again, not to deep dive on the attributes, but his handling and passing have gone up by 1. It's several physical attributes drop, which is, I'll check to see, did he have some kind of crazy injury? But his balance, jumping reach, natural fitness, all 3 went down by 1, but his stamina increased by 1. That's curious. I mean, he had some knocks, bruised ankle. That's the only one from this last year. So that's strange to me. Is it just that he's not playing and getting those reps? But he is playing just for the second team. The only start Chase gets is against Thailand in a friendly. He gets a yellow card, but does a 6.6. But the yellow card wasn't for a penalty, or no one has missed penalty on here. So I'm not sure how he got the yellow card. Did he injure Borden Fela here? At the 71st minute, he gets subbed off. Does he lay on the pitch for a while because Chase took him out or something? Chase is very interesting to me. A little concerningly, he does not get called up for the World Cup qualifiers second round against Oman and East Timor. He does make the bench against Indonesia coming into 2028. There are 3 goalkeepers, though, and Nicholas Bilo-Kapic is listed higher here. Because he's older, is he more of I'm the backup to Matt Ryan? Matthew Ryan starts all the games in 2028, so and hasn't been subbed off, so we can't really know, I guess. But to be fair, Chase is listed now as the first sub, whereas Bilo-Kapic is listed as the 10th sub, and Chase's value is significantly higher, but that's tied to his contract and being a PSG, but he's on the cusp. Matthew Ryan's 36. He can't play forever, right? I feel like this is turning into the players are settling in at their clubs. They're getting cozy. Chase has signed a new contract. Just noticed that. He's up to 36.5 grand from 19 or 19.5 grand. His original contract ended in 2030. Now he's up to 2032. He signed it in the summer last year, so he's been on that contract for almost a year at this point. Relatively small loyalty bonus, which is, to be fair, he also got a huge wage rise, but, fair enough. Again, as a reminder, that is still listed as a breakthrough prospect contract. So, hey, Chase, we believe in you, but keep playing in the second team, and if we have a string of horrific injuries and outside of a transfer window, you are going to get called into the team. But for now, you keep playing with the second team. That is also really well paid. I'm not sure if a whole lot's going to happen with Chase in the next season, but we'll have to see next time. Hello, my friends. Just want to pop in and say thanks to a new patron, Josh. Thanks for supporting the channel. If that's something that you're interested in doing as well, you can go to patreon.com/grayhairgaming. I'm trying to make a run at doing content creation as making a living. And let's just say I'm a bit of a ways from there. So we're working on getting enough watch hours on the channel so this channel can be monetized. But one patron at $5 a month covers about 1,000 views. So if you're interested in supporting my efforts here, you can check out the link in the description. Thanks. All right, I was debating James or Marcus in my head. I was more worried about James because we were going to see if he got any loans. He's up to 44 grand. And it looks like he's played for Benfica. So let's go take a look at that. All right, 27-28. The current season obviously has nothing because it's already rolled over. He gets 2 starts, 10 subs though, 2 goals, 2 assists on a 6.82. I asked my Discord this recently about things that you want to see different in FM26. I so badly want to see the number of minutes, and this is exactly why. Those 2 starts, 10 subs, how long did they last? Were those like cameos at the end of games in the 83rd minute, those 10 subs? Or did he come on for an injured player and play 30 minutes? That's important to know to kind of judge that 6.82, but I digress. He also gets the 3 cup starts on a 6.63. Not great. 6 continental subs with a goal on a 6.85. And he gets an international start and 2 international subs with a goal on a 6.9. So some development here. I think this is positive. You compare that to last season where he had the 5 starts for the B team, and that's it. I think getting 2 starts and a bunch of subs and then some cup stuff and continental stuff, international stuff is a significant step in the right direction for James. He's more on the map. I think I said last time he was on the map, but maybe he's like more on the map. Contract is relatively new. He signed it in the last, 4 months? And it goes out till 2032 now, again with an optional contract extension up to 44 grand a week. He did have 2 minor injuries in the last 12 months, out for a total of 12 days, so nothing major, gashed upper leg and a bruised ankle. His dribbling and passing are into the yellow, so he's got 16s and above now on several different places. And I do want to highlight, I've just realized the attribute analysis hasn't been on any of the previous players. It'll be on the Patreon. All right, let's add that back in there. He does have 3 new player traits, that seems like quite a lot to develop in 12 months, to go from 0 to 3. Because I just looked at the last video, he didn't have any of these. So he now has a run with the ball through center, gets forward whenever possible, and tries killer balls often. That is a lot of, right? We think about when you're on the training screen with players, you go training, yeah, let's do a new trait. It's like, okay, did you just knock him out really quickly? Did he have a good mentor? Let's go see. Maybe his mentor is Rafael Luis. Looks like a tasty nugget, although also doesn't look as far forward as James. Rafael also has the runs with the ball through center, so maybe there's that. I don't want to spend too much time investigating that. I just think that's kind of interesting. But he's picked up an additional 3 caps and a goal, so let's go see what's going on there. Okay, he doesn't do anything in 2027. He starts against Brazil and scores in the 2nd minute and ends with a 7.0. He does get a knock in that game. He gets injured in the 4th minute. The shot was hit so hard, he did something. And so, how gutting is that? To score in the 2nd minute and then to come off 2 minutes later with an injury, which then means he misses the game against Paraguay. Coming into the Copa America, he comes on against Jamaica as a sub towards the end of the game, doesn't even get a rating. Comes in as a sub against Costa Rica and gets a 6.8. And then I think probably just is on the bench against Venezuela in a draw. They have made it to the Copa America quarterfinal against the United States, so we'll have to see if maybe he was just getting rested for that Venezuela game and he comes back in. In the Colombia setup, as expected, he is a sub. He's not starting over some of the other players, but again, looks like they've got a bunch of young guys, actually not a bunch of young guys on the bench, but looks like he's rated relatively high. He's playing in the Copa America. He played in that World Cup qualifier. I can't believe he scored and then got injured 2 minutes later. That is brutal. And it's kind of the same thing for Benfica, except now he's on a squad player contract. That's probably that new contract he signed in February. So I would expect, right, he's going to start getting more of those rotation appearances and starts, assuming that they are, making a run in one of the competitions to where they've got a bunch of games. Yeah, they won the league. So clearly they're going to be in the Champions League as well. So you're going to have the Cup, the Champions League, and the league. You would imagine a squad player is going to get like a healthy number of starts, subs, minutes, etc. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of worried about James. Like, they're loaning him out. They're not really playing. I know he's young, right? Like, worry is in comparison to some of the other guys. But he's come on strong, and, getting the appearances internationally, I think, is also huge. He's now wanted. That's the last thing we'll take a look at here. Ajax. Ajax is looking to generate some money in order to buy him, and then Galatasaray is also kind of sniffing around. So, will he even still be with Benfica? We're in the middle of a transfer window, so that'll be interesting to see next time as well. Last but not least, it is Marcus. The first thing that jumps out to me on this screen is he doesn't have any yellow 16 and above attributes, which would indicate maybe not a lot of development. I do see some appearances up here. Let's go take a look. Okay. Again, I appreciate your comments on the last episode. Just 6 substitute appearances on a 6.6. And he only plays 3 starts and 3 subs in like non-competitive friendlies too, and bangs in 6 goals trying to get some attention. He does get 6 international starts with another 6 goals, a goal a game on a 705, but he doesn't even get a sniff in the cup. That is disappointing. And then, oh, it's just jumped out at me here. They got relegated as well. Okay, so it wasn't injuries that kept Marcus out of the squad. He did pick up his second injury of his entire career for 3 days. Can you imagine going that long and not even having like a tight groin as an injury? To be young again. Not seeing a lot of development. He does now run with the ball down the right. I'm wondering, now that they've been relegated, is that maybe a good thing for Marcus? Like, if we look at the squad, he's now a striker coming off the bench, and the entire team, pretty much, except for 23-year-old Tim Hoffman, is wanted, except for Marcus. Nelson Viper is wanted by Marseille, Augsburg, Hertha Berlin. Marcus is concerned but not wanted, and I'm kind of curious as to why he's being left out in the cold there. Maybe it's just he didn't play and he hasn't scored any goals at the Bundesliga level, so, maybe that. But like, if the squad gets cleared out, that could also be a bad thing. But from a playing time standpoint, he could get more appearances in the games, right? Because there's nobody left. They've got a star player that's wanted, but also still happy, which is, you'd kind of hope that Nelson would be like, I want to go make a difference someplace else. How many goals did he score last season? 12 and 33 starts. Yeah, that's okay. And they got relegated by 2 points. Hanover, where Chris had been previously, not in this last year, but Hanover and Mainz go down. Heidenheim stay up by 2 solitary points. Actually, Heidenheim by the skin of their teeth. So they lose 2-1 in the first game, and it looks like they come back to win 2-0 in the second game over Werder Bremen to stay alive. Now, Mainz have sold one I would call big player for $21.5 million, Tom Kraus, but they've also brought in $14.25 million. So is this like a reload? I mean, all that stuff happened in like last summer and last winter, though, I guess. So now you're not seeing, I guess, let me go forward. No, there's no movement in the transfer window yet. So it makes me kind of wonder, are they going to rebuild? And is Marcus part of that rebuild? Or are they going to maybe look to sell an asset that they've not ever really used in order to then finance that build? Or is he just going to play? It's not all bad news. Again, he gets the 6 starts and 6 goals. So he scores a goal against East Timor on a 6.8 in World Cup qualifying. He does a 7.1, again with an early goal against Oman. He nets a brace against Australia, but it's not against Chase, it's against Matt Ryan, and they win that game 2-0. Gets a second-minute penalty against Oman, but they end up drawing. Kind of surprising, even though Marcus does a 7.4. Does a 6.8 and a win against East Timor. And then he scores in the 11th minute, and he does a 7.1, but they end up losing 4-1 to Australia. Ooh. Also disappointing, he has no plans for the future. He's not like, yay, I want to get out of here. He's got the same agent. He's dubbed the new Boaz. Maybe that means something to you, and you'll leave a comment about what that means. Sorry. He's got a decent reputation, but not an exceptional reputation. I was thinking Marcus might be one of the other potential Wonderkids. He's a fairly professional personality striker. Is he going to end up just being all right? Is he ever going to play in Germany, like legit games? I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, my friends, we're going to wrap it up there. Got the values up there for you. Who needs the move the most? I think it's going to be between Chris, Gustav, Marcus, and Chase. I think there are 4 players that could really use moves. Who do you think it should be? If you're enjoying this content, a like, a subscribe, or a comment, or all 3 really do help the channel as we continue to rebuild heading into FM26. We'll see you next time. We'll see who's made moves and who hasn't.